So I am Sarah Kessinger, and I'm the president of the Sterling Society, which is hosting the Coffee and Conversation. And as I told you a little while ago, it's been going since 2005. Kind of interesting. The Coffee and Conversation has. Then we just had a very successful event that we ran at the Bel Air Country Club. And it was an astronaut from our own little Pinellas County, from Clearwater. She graduated from Clearwater, went to all her schools, and her education was right here in Florida. And she's been was with NASA for 30 years, and just gave us the most, oh gosh, inspiring is a good word, and talking about her life and her, especially her time up in space. And I had so many people that asked me beforehand, meet me on the street. So Sarah, I'm coming to this, but why an astronaut at the art center, for art? And I said, well, when she was up there, she had to have some type of a craft that she took with her. And her craft was artistry. She wanted to be an artist. So she took her paintbrushes, which she had to kind of tie down in a manner so that they wouldn't go floating off as she
away.
And her paint had to be, in something that she could put the paintbrush into. Very interesting how she did it. But she's very good, and her art is mainly her space pictures. And so she's taken the colors from that and put them, from photographs that she took. And I'm sure she took millions of photographs. So it was very good, very well attended. And I think everybody that left absolutely loved the talk that she gave us, and her Q&A was really good. So our next big fun thing that we're going to do is we're going to have a Christmas gathering, or not even Christmas. It's just going to be holiday. It's really not going to be Christmas at all. It's going to be just a holiday get together. And we are going to go over to the golf club because the art center is still not having large groups yet. And so we'll go over there, and they are well prepared for the 6-foot distancing, and you wear a mask when you walk in, and we do the best we can to avert COVID. But it will be fun. It will be a cocktail party. It will just be, easy, whatever, have fun. We're looking for entertainment right now. And so it will be a fun thing to do. Coffee and Conversation is sponsored, as you've already heard, by Diane Whately Gelati, and she has been with the Sterling Society as one of its founders. I mean, she wrote the bylaws. So she's been with us since 2005. And as you can tell, she's never left. She's sitting right here on Coffee and Conversation. So we appreciate it. Because of her, we can offer it to our members free of charge when we're in person. That's what we do. We charge a very small nominal amount to non-members, and it's free to our members. And I present now back to Diane, who, by the way, everybody, give her a big happy birthday wish, because the day is her birthday.
Oh, happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
71. Woohoo.
Okay, Diane, back over to you, dear.
Okay. Well, anybody who is logged on here has read the bio for Saudade. So I'm not going to repeat everything that's in the bio. The reason you're here is you've looked at it and you're interested. And as most of you know, I do ask people to hold their questions until after the presentation, but you can type them in the chat box, or you can, if something is urgent, you can raise your hand and it'll show up in your image when you unmute yourself. But for the beginning of the conversation, please, we'll all go on mute. And I will let Saudade introduce herself and talk a bit about her background. And then you're all looking at the first page of her website, and that's what she's going to be referring to during the course of her talk. So I'm going to stop there. And unless somebody has a question, make sure you have your volume setting on whatever device you're using up so you can hear her clearly. And I think we're ready. So welcome. Thank you so much for agreeing. Oh, I guess I should also say, for future purposes, the program Coffee and Conversation is a September through May timeframe. So we usually shut down during the summer months because in the past, lots of our attendees were snowbirds and they go back to their homes when it gets unbearably hot here. So this is the second of our series, and they'll continue through May of next year. So we'll keep you posted about who's coming up next. All right, that's about it. Go ahead, Saudade, please go ahead and introduce yourself. Talk whatever you'd like to about your background, share with us and your website.
Okay, thank you so much. My name is Saudade Toxosi, and I would firstly like to thank the Dunedin Fine Arts Center, Catherine Bergman, and also the Sterling Society for having me here, and Diane with Coffee and Conversations. My art is inspired by ancestral wisdom and inner strength. So art inspired by ancestral wisdom and inner strength is about my journey as a youth. I want to say I was possibly 21 when I began traveling, searching for my ancestors. I was really looking for a place within myself to feel at home, because I wasn't quite feeling at home in the United States, and I wasn't feeling quite home in California, and by way moving to Atlanta and now residing for about 10 months here in St. Petersburg. So with that, I began traveling. I traveled throughout, I went to Africa, West Africa, I went to Brazil, and I went to Central America, Peru, and some other places. And so what that means, art inspired by ancestral wisdom and inner strength, is what I learned along my journey. And with this, I learned something as far as my artwork is concerned, which is found here on my website, which is the first page, which is called Igbodu. Igbodu is called the womb of the forest. The elements of ancestral wisdom and inner strength, as far as my palette is concerned, is monochromatic. It is black and white, which shares mystery, and it also shares light or contraction and expansion. And so within each photo that relates to the forest or into nature, which are elements of the invisible. So here with this particular photo, which was taken in Peru, it is a clip from a film, a short film that I created. And with these images in the red and the yellow and the blues relate to a particular place in West Africa that has a portal that comes, a portal meaning a bank of a river that we cross coming into, from West Africa into Brazil. So we believe in African spirituality that in the forest resides little gnomes or little fairies or little beings. And so with that, they teach us along our journey, and they help us to become ones of good character and good power. And so with this, it's almost as if I feel to be carrying on a lineage of what I have learned from my ancestors, which we find, or which I would express as new indigenous African. So that means my grandmother is actually Seminole. And then I also have African ancestry, and we bring Creek Indian or Cherokee Indian into my way of viewing the world. And so as I am viewing the world, I am depicting through all forms of medium, photography, what I believe my ancestors are teaching to me. And one may ask, what are your ancestors teaching you? My ancestors are teaching me how to live in harmony with nature and with others, other human beings, other animals, things that one does not see and things that are seen. And then finding the riddle, the parable of life, and creating a wonderful deposit for what I bring. We believe that we all come to greet the earth. And when we come and greet the earth, we bring special gifts to bring harmony. So I'm hoping that we all can see and that I'm not going too quickly. This image here was shot out of a bus actually in Cuba in my travels. And so with every aspect of nature, there is this wonderful mythical being that joins the mind or the heart and teaches one their strengths as we journey. So also, as a multidisciplinary artist, I use collage as well. And I'm hoping that you can see these. This one here is called a parody. And this collage is a very political and spiritual connective because it speaks to the community, the Black community more so. All of my works are speaking to the Black community specifically as we are journeying through a place in which we have not had much care or recourse, that we have been more so in deep struggle. And so it is asking the questions of how much of Western spirituality or Western constructs, political, social, how are we actually working with these ideas to bring forth a life that is, I want to say that is resilient, but also a life that is really having the availability to own oneself and availability to care for one's community. And how does that show up? To see these pieces, I believe that it is imperative. I give so much thanks for Zoom. However, when it comes down to art, you need to really be in front of each piece because there are so many details, so many nuances that speak beyond what one can see via Zoom. So here, one of my color palettes is always red, black, and white. Sometimes it's infused with yellow. So red, black, and white are the powers of the grandmothers that they believe govern, or that I believe as well, govern the whole of all things, of the seen and the unseen, the world itself. And so the mothers hold a primordial power. And with that primordial power, they bless all. This particular sculpture here is 3 pieces of wood that I actually walked into the woods by way of meditation. My work is also full of a meditation process in which I sit, I take just a few minutes of prayer, and then I go out into the world to find these things that vibrate. So as I was in the woods, I'm looking and that piece shows up and that piece shows up. This particular piece I call it is Wolf. It was a part of Rural Wolf. That was a theatrical presentation in Atlanta at the Goat Farm. And so I had 2 installations there. So we took the whole compound and we walked through this theatrical presentation. This is actually the headdress. And it stood about 10 feet tall with all of its pieces. And it was probably, I want to say only 6 or 7 pieces, but it stood really tall. It was super incredible. And here is a digital collage that was presented for Darius James, and it's called Obama Bubbles. And it was an interesting piece about COVID, government, and how we view this particular pandemic. So Darius James is a writer and friend of mine that has been wow, in the mix for some time. This also is Trap 808. It is a collage that is on canvas. And this collage speaks to false binaries within the Black community. So it presents itself as one would say, a trap house or a crack house. And then all the elements that are within, and asking at the same time, in relationship to trap music or relationship to community, how these elements are taking place in our community and what are we doing about it? In the sense, are we walking by? Are we actually allowing these things to happen? What are we doing as far as healing is concerned? Back here, you can see a little bit of a skull face in the back, you know, and then you have the male and female principle, music as a record, you know, passing hands and arms, and what are we working through and working with. My memories as a child, I began painting and drawing with my mother, and I was quite jealous because my mother was so good. She's really, really good. And with this, I also began, what I'm wanting to express is that from my growing ups, my mom started me in my drawing. And then from that, I began working with PBS. So PBS as a master control operator. So with that, it helps me within my mixed media, my photography, and also my sound design and filmmaking. My sound design and my ear came about by way of my aunt, who taught me jazz when I was 13. So she tuned my ear and said, what is it that you hear? What is it, if you don't know the instrument, describe the instrument. And if you do not know the vocal, describe the vocal. And so from that, I began describing what I heard, and then was able to understand the names of the people that I was listening to, such as Sarah Vaughan or Billie Holiday. And so with that, which I did not disclose, is that I'm a multidisciplinary artist that is image curating. And I'm working in painting, charcoal drawings, photography, mixed media, sound design, and assemblage. And painting, however, is my first love. And this one here is entitled Beheading Abel, actually. You know, it is a very strong piece. It is pretty huge, and but it's also not in the sense of the commentary within the Bible itself, but in the commentary of our present lives and how we are treating one another and how we are treating our families and how is it that we can promote love, community, and care. Here is also Ori, and Ori is a principle of the mind and the higher self in relationship in Ifa spirituality. So also, let's see, I have a curatorial practice, which is called Equinox 1600. And Equinox 1600 is the never-ending rebirth of an idea. So within this blog, Equinox 1600, there are over 11,000 images. They are all picked by way of storytelling. Within each story, there is also a hint of numerology, where if there is one image that leads and the other follows, how does it read if it were going backward? So it should be able to be read differently at different times, expressing almost a different story. Here with Equinox 1600 is where I began working in film. I had at least a gentleman by the name of Arthur Jaffa in 2016 contacted me and said that he had seen my blog and that he had gone through over, he told me how many images there were at that time. He says there are over 8,000 images here and they rarely repeat. And so with that, he asked me, he said, would you be interested in befriending me and working with me? So I said, sure. So from that, we created together with other people choosing as far as image research and also found footage, we created the film Love is the Message and the Message is Death, which won a Lion actually last year. He also showed this blog, and I'm gonna just scroll through it a little bit. He showed this to other Black cinematographers, such as Khalil Joseph, who I worked with for Beyonce's Lemonade, and also worked with him on another feature that was shown at the New Museum. With this, they wanted my eye. It was something about my eye that they really enjoyed. They say it's something how there is a moment where it reminded them of international filmmaking. It reminded them of this, I can't recall the filmmaker's name, but there's a Japanese filmmaker that Khalil loved very much. And he asked me to work on his films. Also, I had different cinematographers as well, such as Bradford Young, who has been a cinematographer for Mother of George, so many other different films. And so what Arthur Jaffa did, he basically set them all in a room. It was about 5 Black cinematographers. He set them all in the room and he took Equinox 1600 and he put it to music. And he said, look at this, you know, she is actually better than me. Arthur had combined this different areas and put music to it. And the cinematographers, he said, their eyes glazed over. So with this, I am very happy to say that this is a part of my journey as far as inspired by ancestral wisdom and inner strength, is because I've never had to advertise. They've all just called me and very happy, you know, to work with me by word of mouth. So this has been a wonderful process for me. Let's see, are there any questions at this time as I am going through these motions and moments?
I have a question.
Sure.
That image, the red shoes and the white
Yes.
dress.
Mhm.
One, I have a shoe fetish, and I love it. What is that image conveying in your mind's eye? What I like it. I don't know why I like it, but I like it.
I love that. What's happening here is really color coordination. And at this time, one can say, I believe that there was this process of this image where it was in New Mexico, I want to say, where there were the women would come out during, let's see, Dia de los Muertos, you know, but it was the women of that were prostitutes, you know, and so with that, they do share their own ceremony and their own masks and their own ways. So with this, it was a bit of a homage to women and what women are going through, but in an elegant yet mysterious sort of way, because you have these red shoes, but then you have also the white and then the slip. you
Yeah,
know.
it appears
But
to be a wedding dress.
it's this beautiful, you think so?
Well, just that's what I came to mind looking at it, is a woman in a wedding dress walking through a plaza surrounded by a bunch of red high heels that are very much kind of whatever those red high heels say.
We have a boot over here too. So there's a boot back
yeah.
here.
Okay.
Yes, but the thing about the curatorial moment with this never-ending rebirth of an idea was created by really allowing the mystery. Within this moment of the story, sometimes I am not specifically available to relay the story by way of that these are all kind of separate yet connected. So I may have chosen four images, and then they may end, and then they may begin, and then they may end. So it could be three that speak, and then there could be three that speak here. See how we add a little texture or a little something other than within that image. However, it creates a totally different story. You know, that, yes, Catherine?
When I first saw your work, Saudade, and went to your site, this project in particular really captured me. And when I imagine how you would present it at a venue, like looking at it now, reading upward over the screen and being able to see sort of, you know, individualized sequences. You're right, it does. Each time you're scrolling up, it's telling another story, another story, another story. I I wonder in the venue when you show it, is this how it's being shown, and is it rolling, and then when it gets to the end of all the images you've compiled, does it loop again? No, I don't. Or is it presented at a film festival, and then
I'm sorry.
because you know what, there is a Dunedin International Film Festival, and I think it's
Oh,
part of it. And
wow,
it's happening in
incredible.
January.
Oh, incredible. Well, I will be presenting a short film that I created at the Dunedin Fine Arts Center, which is entitled Oyeku. And they are 200 and I want to say it's 253 or 56 found images. This actually is one of my paintings here. So sometimes they are inserted inside where you can see them. Yeah, so that's actually one of mine here.
And when you use other people's images, do you have to get a permission or no?
Yes, you do have to get permission. For me, when I created Oyeku was actually executive produced through Khalil Joseph. So I actually showed Oyeku for the very first time, sponsored by Khalil in the Netherlands at the Bonnefante Museum. And so I will be showing Oyeku at Dunedin next Friday. It will be showing there.
Yes.
Indeed. Yes. And Oyeku, let's see, I may be able to, let's see, we'll come out of this screen and we'll go into Oyeku. All right. So Oyeku, this is how it was shown in the Netherlands. It had a black projection screen, and it also had a light box and a mirror here with the projection shooting to this point. So Oyeku is a principle in the Yoruba tradition, and it's about rebirth. It's about death and rebirth. So here we have Oyeku would show on this black projected screen, but then it would bounce into the mirror. So with that, the light box would show, and then you would have this crescent moon sort of image hanging about. The object of it was the Obsidian Mirror from the Aztecs, where one could look in and to see the future. And it would also tell about the present, and it would also tell about the community. So it was the king that could look into the Obsidian Mirror. And so here we have Oyeku showing, and Oyeku would, the people that would come in would be captured inside of the mirror at the same time. So it became this living sort of prayer, this living conjure. So also on the west wall, we had, or I had cords that were tied and knotted together. And so that brought everyone, regardless of race, regardless of language, regardless of religion, it was all of humanity really that walked through this exhibition or this installation, were captured inside of the mirror. And with that, they were captured in what I call a prayer for African Americans or the new indigenous African in the United States, from the death and the brutality of being shot in the streets and all the inequalities and the injustices. So this is a little slide from Oyeku. And I don't know if I should give a sneak preview or if no, Lisa's no.
Oh,
Lisa's
Lisa,
no.
here I'm like, yes, yes.
You have to go to Dunedin Fine Arts Center to see it.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, I'm with you.
You think so? Should we do a little? But
The teaser.
yes, so here is another. The Oyeku is also a feminine principle of contraction. So within Oyeku, you will have, or you will witness, the divine feminine always within Oyeku. Yes. So I'm trying to see if I have, do we have any questions, or if I've sort of been a little bit of everywhere.
I will just say, in the process of working with you to present Oyaku at DFAC, you have envisioned it. You had to recreate the format.
Most definitely.
So I love seeing the prior incarnation, Netherlands, with the reflections and the opposing walls. And at DFAC, you will have a primary wall in our atrium that you're working with. So you've had to recreate the piece.
Yes.
Within those within those parameters.
Yes. Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
And it's gonna be marvelous.
Yes,
You know, I'm already sensing it, you know. It's gonna be quite beautiful. Let's see here. I will, yes.
To answer your question, Saudade, nothing has popped up on the chat as far as questions, but I have a very mundane question.
Sure.
I read your bio and background, but can I ask, what was your first art form, or the first thing that you studied that led you on this amazing multidisciplinary path?
How about that I am self-taught? I've had maybe 2 classes in college. I was going to study art education because I wanted to teach art. And then at the same time, being a very outspoken, maybe a little bit of rebellious, I said, wow, for me to teach art education, I'm not having many art classes. So, so I was like, wow, but yeah, I went to Spelman College for a little while. I went to the University of Illinois as far as social justice and protest with friends in the arts. So we did a lot of art activism there. And I went to Parkland College and I was recruited at the High Museum of Art. But I really began drawing with my mother. And then I had a few, teachers that really liked the work. Even my first painting was bought by my art teacher. I had 2 art classes in college and he bought them, and he really wanted me to soar really, really strongly, in academia, but from that, I did not give up. I kept pursuing, the arts and kept, I started working with Hammond House in the Hammond House Museum of African American Art in Atlanta. And so I started working in their auctions. So I would present work and it would sell. So it was great, and then from that, I started meeting other artists, and I just did not give up. I kept searching for residencies, and then actually one of my friends who is an artist, she expressed to me, she said, hey, Saudade, you're a little within the time of that I'm right on time, in the sense that I'm sort of an internet or a web artist, because I found so many connections with this. I've also worked in South Africa, still working in South Africa, with creativity under confinement with a team that's called About Time. So this is all about archiving. It's archiving resistance. It's archiving the politic, and also archiving culture from apartheid until the present day. And so this was taking with, at least we had 40 artists throughout the diaspora to create this book of art and literature, art and writing. And so we went to the Norval Museum in Cape Town, to present our work there with hopes of funding to create a tangible archive as well, that is not just in cyberspace. Also with that, I've worked with South African artists. Dineo Shepe Bopa. I did a photo essay for her in Norway. And so it's just been these wonderful moments in which I have met people just by, there's this deep feeling that seemingly takes over them by way of curation, meaning with found art, or even within my own works, that seemingly moves other artists. And then from that, we create these collaborative moments. So that's really my journey. Even here, since I've been in St. Pete for 10 months now, I have shown my work and I've sold my work via Studio 620. I've had 2 curation moments just recently at the Art Exchange for their second Saturday abstractions, and then also for Latinx Mi Gente Movida. Yeah, I've been very, very blessed, and very in keeping. And that's one reason why I always speak about my art being inspired by ancestral wisdom, because I really feel that my ancestors support me and help me move, through areas that are sometimes very hard to get into if you don't have a degree, or if you don't, have, the support, that I've found, here in St. Pete or abroad, or, with other artists, so I understand the importance of collaborative efforts between artists, and also facilities and people, such as Catherine, and seeing, being able to see the beauty in what it is that I desire to present.
Okay, one of the things,
I will
I just wanted to mention briefly, we want to make sure that we give her contact information because this will be on YouTube. So those
Okay.
who miss the presentation and want to follow up with you, just make sure that whatever you prefer as either your website, your personal contact, your email, make sure you put that in there and go ahead.
Okay. Okay.
And I just wanted to interject that the introduction of Saudadji's work coming up at DFAC that will open October 22nd and then remain in place through the end of the year is also an announcement of a new guest curatorial program that Nathan and I are beginning in the new year 2022. So Saudadji is going to be our first guest curator, and she will then put together a show it's summer. Is it summer, Saudadji?
Yes, summer 2022.
Oh yes, so this
Super
is,
excited.
yes, and we are honored and in anticipation, really.
And we certainly hope by then that our current limitations with regard to COVID, that we'll be able to kick it off with a grand party, this new program. By next
Yes,
summer.
thank you for that, Diane. So much.
We all have to pray, talk to your ancestors.
There you have it. Tell it.
Pray for that change to occur.
Indeed.
We're laying the groundwork now, right, Saudadji?
Indeed. Yes. So these last images are with my friend and colleague and artist. She's a political activist. Her name is Cara Judea Aldefa. And she is PhD from, I want to say Harvard University, but we met during my residency. And so these images are a bit of projection and also photography. So this is called mask compliance. So these are her understandings and political views in relationship to racial hygiene, mask wearing, and I guess just the political aspects of all those things. So it was a beautiful photo shoot. She came to my studio, and this is where we actually presented or took these photos. And we took some at a kiln as well that was on the property of Hambidge Art and Science Institute.
Now, I did want to ask you that over the years, I've heard from other artists how pivotal residencies have figured into the evolution of their work.
Most definitely.
I wondered if you would speak to that, how that might have changed your practice or the course of your vision when you were at Hambidge.
You know, the beautiful moment of Hambidge was it was in 2020, you know, so we had this availability to go into the mountains, you know, and to be in a wonderful space. So as we were there, I really needed to be in nature. You know, when, you know, COVID was about, no one could really move, but we had this opportunity of being about. So with that, it gave me the opportunity to have a great space, you know, full of everything that I needed, you know, art table, all the resources. They made sure that I had a library. They made sure that I had a stipend. I was rewarded a stipend for being there. And also meeting with Cara, we both had the opportunity of expansions. So this expansive quality is that we shared our visions of the state in which we were in, but also it gave her the opportunity too to pick up a camera, which she had yet to pick up in 10 years. And she's an incredible photographer. I mean, incredible. And
So she
yes,
was one of the other artists at the residency. She was,
yes,
and so the collaboration
yes,
came about just by virtue of meeting one another.
yes, being in space and you know, and sharing, you know, those moments of how we're viewing the world at this time.
How
And
many
so with
artists were
that,
at the residency, Saudade?
I would like to say there was at least, I'm counting, there was at least 10 of us where we could all be, you know, 6 feet apart. You know, we only had one meal together and it was always prepared with 6 feet apart. And then we were also able to, you know, we all had our own residencies. They had their own cabins and spaces, you know, there. So it was just quite phenomenal. It was, I mean, it really, it's almost, it's almost as if I can't really express it because it was for such you know, momentous time, you know, during COVID, and then having the availability to walk freely and to be about and, you know, not to have to mask unless we come together, you know, was just quite wonderful. And nature was very, very forgiving and just gave us the space to soar, you know. So I'm very, very happy to be a part of Hambidge. And also Hambidge has a residency, I mean, an auction. So we all are a part of this auction that takes place to keep it going. And also we have an art advisory board. So how can we expand, you know, the ideas, you know, within the residency, you know? So now there's one in the city of Atlanta, and there also is one in Rathburn Gap in the mountains of North Georgia. So that is pretty awesome.
I know you were working on the piece that you're auctioning.
Yes.
Is it online now and can
Yeah, it is online. They started bidding actually last night.
Excellent.
Yes, indeed.
Now I do want to say too that at the Art Center, we have wanted to cultivate an artist residency program, and it got kind of waylaid with COVID. But yeah, we've had our sights on that for, I'd say, the last decade, and we had started to have more specific conversations, but we had to table it when we were conserving our resources during the pandemic. But this is inspiring to hear.
Yes, yes, because also there is another woman that I will be working with shortly, and she's in New Orleans. And so she contacted me recently and expressed that she would like to work together, and she's a filmmaker and photographer. So with that, yeah, things are showing up, you know, and from those wonderful moments in collaboration, you know, those wonderful moments just together sharing our ideas, you know. So yeah, it gives art also that great expansion as well, you know. Yes, not just in one particular place, but regionally, you know, and then also, you know, across continents, you know, as we keep developing our work.
Yes. Now, I also wanted to ask you, and I may be incorrectly identifying this space, but I think I recognize that beautiful door behind you. Are you at Studio at 620?
No, I am not. I'm at home actually.
Oh,
so
that is
beautiful
such
doors
a
at home.
Oh, that's a beautiful door. Yes.
Yes.
But tell us, are you have a presence at Studio at 620? Is that where your studio is?
At this time, we have yet to create that space. We are in the workings of it, you know, in the workings of creating the space, but I am the resident at Studio 620 at this moment, yes.
Okay, good.
Indeed.
So for purpose of your contact information, do you want to just verbally, and anyone who wants to make note of it or future viewers of this video, what is your preferred contact?
My preferred contact is my email address actually, but you can find that on my website. So that would be www.stoxosi.com, or you can find me on IG at STOXOSI, which is basically Saudade Toxosi. And so, yeah, so it's just STOXOSI.
Okay, thank you so very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Glad this
I
all came
appreciate this
together.
time. Thank you, Catherine,
Thank
for
you.
wonderfully engaging me, and Diane, I greatly appreciate it. It always helps me very much, to have the dialogue, flowing a bit better. So I
Yeah.
appreciate it very
It
much.
was perfect. As I have mentioned, some people do formal slideshows and speak to each image, but I think this was very informal but wonderful, using your website and the conversation. So we greatly appreciate it. I'm glad it all came together.
Yes, indeed.
Okay. You have a wonderful afternoon.
You too. Thank you.